Last video, I told you the next one would answer this question. What does OpenAI actually lose per user every time you open ChatGPT? Here's who's going to help me answer it. Journalist Ed Zitron got his hands on OpenAI's real audited financials. His own conclusion, in his own words, OpenAI loses money on every single paying customer. OpenAI's own CFO says something completely different. Sarah Friar on camera in January. A very healthy gross margin, almost enterprise software healthy. One of them is reading the same numbers. So let's check both. On screen right now. 900 million people use ChatGPT every week. OpenAI lost $20 billion last year. Divide one by the other. And you should get a clean number, a price tag on you specifically. Here's the thing about clean numbers in this space though. This channel already caught one 3-year-old cost estimate that nobody's bothered to recalculate since. So before I hand you a number, I'm going to show you exactly how it's built. Then I'm going to tell you why it's the wrong question. Not because someone fumbled a decimal, because the question hides an assumption. And once you see the assumption, the real answer, and which of these two people is closer to right, is more interesting than the fake precise one. OpenAI's own audited financials for 2025 obtained by journalist Ed Zitron and independently verified by the Financial Times, an operating loss of $20.92 billion. Real dated user numbers from the information's reporting on the following quarter. About 905 million average weekly active users. 55 million of them actually pay for something. Do the division. 20.92 billion divided by 905 million users. That's about $23 per user per year. Divided against just the paying subscribers instead. 55 million of them. And it jumps to roughly $380 per paying user per year. There's your headline. OpenAI loses $380 on every subscriber. It sounds exact. It has a source. It would make a great thumbnail. It's also wrong because that $20 billion loss isn't the cost of answering your questions. It's mostly the cost of something else entirely. But before I show you what, there's one more number you've definitely seen and it needs auditing first. Before we get to that, one more number needs auditing. Because you didn't see 20.9 billion in most of the coverage this June. You saw 38.5 billion. Claimed OpenAI lost $38.5 billion in 2025. That figure is real. It's the one that circulated everywhere in June 2026, reported off OpenAI's own audited statements. Filed, here's what's actually inside it. 20.92 billion in operating loss, plus a $41.55 billion charge. Non-cash one-time, triggered when OpenAI converted from a non-profit structure to a for-profit one on October 28, 2025. Add interest and other items and the gross number comes to 60.35 billion. Now subtract 21.82 billion allocated to outside stakeholders, mainly the OpenAI Foundation's own equity stake. Net it out and you land on 38.53 billion. Strip out just the one-time conversion charge and the adjusted loss for the year was closer to $8 billion. Stamped real number. Wrong takeaway if nobody shows you what's inside it. Same company, same year, two very different stories depending on which line you stop reading at. Now back to the $23 figure and the $380 figure we built earlier. Here's the line that breaks them. OpenAI's same audited 2025 numbers. Total revenue, $13.07 billion. Cost of revenue, meaning what it actually costs to run the model and answer your prompts, $7.5 billion. Subtract one from the other, $5.57 billion in gross profit, a gross margin of about 43%. on serving you. That's not a company losing money on the average user. That's a company making roughly 43 cents of profit on every dollar you pay it before anything else gets counted. So where did the other 20 billion go? Research and development, $19.18 billion. Building the next model. Sales and marketing, another $5.7 billion. Acquiring the next user. Even the breakdown of what OpenAI pays Microsoft confirms it. $6 billion of that booked as the cost of serving existing users. $10.6 billion booked as research. Training what comes next. The loss isn't in the transaction, it's in the bet. Here's that Friar quote in full, the one almost nobody clipped past the headline. OpenAI's own CFO already told you this out loud, on camera. Sarah Friar at Davos, January 21st, 2026 on CNBC. Actually, a very healthy gross margin. Our enterprise gross margin already looks a lot like enterprise software. Worth being precise here. Her number is the enterprise slice of the business specifically. Ours in the last beat was the whole company. Consumer ChatGPT included. Different measurements, but the same direction. She wasn't spinning, and serving isn't where the money is going. Healthy margins don't answer the bigger question though. The one investor Brad Gerstner asked Sam Altman directly on the BG2 podcast, November 2nd, 2025. How can a company with $13 billion in revenue make $1.4 trillion in spending commitments? Altman sounding testy. First of all, we're doing well more revenue than that. Second of all, Brad, if you want to sell your shares, I'll find you a buyer. Then enough. I think there are a lot of people who would love to buy OpenAI shares. Both things are true at once. The serving margin really is healthy, and the company is still betting hundreds of billions of dollars, a number it later walked down itself from that 1.4 trillion to roughly 600 billion by 2030 on a future that hasn't shipped yet. So the average user is fine, but averages hide extremes, and analyst firm Semi-Analysis found exactly where those extremes live, a figure we touched on back in video 10, worth restating here. A maxed out $20 ChatGPT plus subscription can burn through roughly $700 in compute. A maxed out $200 Pro subscription up to $14,000. If you're a light user, you cost OpenAI nothing. If you're a power user, you cost it plenty. The average just doesn't show you which one you are. You can watch OpenAI feel that pressure in real time. February 2026, the company started showing ads to free tier users in the US. Opt out of personalized ads and your daily message limit drops. OpenAI's own stated reason, on the record, high infrastructure costs. That's not a leaked document or a critic's estimate. That's the company itself, changing a product and telling you exactly why. And it's not just OpenAI living this math. Anthropic, the company behind Claude, announced its own run rate revenue crossed $47 billion in May 2026, up from about $9 billion just 5 months earlier. That growth is real enough that Anthropic confidentially filed for an IPO on June 1st, 2026. But it has never publicly disclosed its actual gross margin, and even its own revenue numbers don't fully add up across disclosures. 14 billion in February, 19 billion from Dario Amodei himself. 3 weeks later in March, then a separate exceeding 5 billion to date figure from its CFO days after that. Journalist Ed Zitron called those figures, quote, impossible to reconcile. Different company, different business mix, more enterprise customers, structurally better margins on paper. Same underlying problem, numbers that grow fast and don't always agree with each other. Which brings us to the loudest critic in this space, Ed Zitron. The same journalist whose reporting on OpenAI's audited financials is most of what you just watched. In a Bloomberg interview, June 2nd, 2026, he called OpenAI and Anthropic, quote, dangerous and unsustainable companies that shouldn't be taken public. He's not wrong that the spending is enormous. But go back to February 2025 and Zitron wrote something more specific. OpenAI loses money on every single paying customer, just like with its free users. The audited numbers we just walked through from a full year after he wrote that say otherwise. Company-wide serving customers is gross margin positive, not every subsegment, not the power users, but on average the specific claim doesn't hold up against OpenAI's own later disclosure. Even the sharpest critic in the room can be right about the scale of the problem and still wrong about exactly where it lives. So, what does OpenAI actually lose per user? There isn't a clean number, not because nobody's looked, because the honest version of the answer refuses to be one number. On average, serving you is profitable, at roughly 43 cents on the dollar. The $20 billion hole isn't under your feet. It's under the next model that hasn't shipped yet and the hundreds of billions in compute already promised to build it. OpenAI isn't losing money on you, it's betting on you, betting that today's healthy margin keeps funding tomorrow's much bigger one. Whether that bet pays off, nobody outside the company actually knows yet. This channel exists to check the number before it goes in the headline. Next time, why some of the biggest companies in America have quietly started running parts of their stack on Chinese AI models, and what that says about the price war nobody's calling a price war yet. If this saved you from repeating a number you hadn't checked, that's the whole job. Subscribe for the next one.